Trump wins, sex strike. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. The outcome of the US presidential election is providing rich pickings for the purposes of explaining why people are behaving in a particular way, and also enabling me to do so in relation to the topic of narcissism. Many candidates who seek the leadership of a country, and those that are successful, are narcissists. This, as I've explained previously, is because political power provides a rich vein through which the prime aims of control, fuel, character traits, and residual benefits can be obtained. It's also the case that the skill sets that are required to get into that position and stay into that position are often best catered for as a consequence of narcissism. Nevertheless, what we're looking at is the reaction of individuals to the outcome of the presidential election, and yesterday I provided you with useful insight where certain people have had a narcissistic meltdown as a consequence of Trump's victory. Now there has been another reaction, this time something in respect of a sex strike. As reported in The Telegraph, liberal women have sworn to go on sex strike over Donald Trump's election win. Mr. Trump swept to victory in Tuesday's presidential race that Democrats cast as a referendum on abortion rights and protections for women. Some women are now threatening to punish men for voting for Trump, taking inspiration from a Korean feminist movement that vows to withhold sex from men in order to redefine the gender power balance. Interest in the 4B movement spiked since Kamala Harris's defeat, with women sharing videos of themselves on social media pledging to commit to its 4 no's: no sex, no dating or marriage, and no having children with men for the next 4 years. In one video, a young woman pledges to go celibate and encourages others to delete dating apps in order to exercise sovereignty over their bodies. Well, as I've explained in separate videos, you should avoid online dating, so there might actually be a useful collateral consequence that comes from this. I'll refrain from the jokes about the ugly people not getting laid, and etc., etc. An individual stated, "As a woman, my bodily autonomy matters, and this is my way to exercise sovereignty over that," she says. So I highly encourage any other women who are single and still care about progressing women's rights and still fighting for our bodily autonomy to do the same. Delete your dating apps. The woman also encourages others to seek out their female friends for comfort if you need somebody to cuddle, and describes the 4B movement, which originated in South Korea, as a point of inspiration. The US election revealed a gender divide in the electorate, with 55% of men turning out for Trump and 53% of women voting for Ms. Harris. Some have blamed sexism for America's decision to return Mr. Trump to the White House. "Men will always be against women," read the caption in one TikTok video of a young woman crying in a car. It's a rather generalist approach, isn't it, to declare that half the planet is against the other half? But then, of course, that is often the knee-jerk reaction of those exhibiting emotional thinking rather than behaving logically. A number of the videos addressed concerns over abortion, which was on the ballot in 10 states and was central to the Harris campaign. "If men won't respect our bodies, they don't get access to our bodies," one woman said. "All I have to say is good luck getting laid, especially in Florida, because me and my girlies are participating in the 4B movement." An obscure, largely online branch of Korean feminism, the 4B movement started in the mid-2010s, around the same time as the Me Too movement in the United States, in response to a wave of reports about violence towards women and gender equality issues. It stands for 4 Korean words that begin with bai or no in English. Baihon or bihon means no heterosexual marriage, bichulsan means no childbirth, bienai means no dating, and bisexual I think that's right, signifies no heterosexual sexual relationships. It's unclear how widespread the movement is in Korea, but it has met with backlash from some disgruntled men. Well, that's what had happened in Korea, and now liberal women have hijacked this. Accordingly, we have a number of women who have declared that they're going on a sex strike for the next 4 years to protest against Trump, to highlight women's issues around abortion, and in some instances simply stating that they'll not have sex with MAGA men. Now, let's hear from some of these individuals so you can judge for yourselves.
I personally think that if all of these men are voting to take our rights away, they don't deserve to touch a woman for the next 4 years. So, hope you thought that through, you guys.
All I have to say is good luck getting laid. Especially in Florida. Because me and my girlies are participating in the 4B movement. That's my next plan. And I'm dead fucking serious.
Baby, if you wanted to touch my body, you should have voted for it.
Donald Trump is president, and I think all women should stop having sex for the next 4 years. In protest and protection of your bodies. As we know, if that little baby inside you gives you any trouble and you need an emergency healthcare, you're fucked and you're gonna die. I think that is sufficient enough reason to stop having sex. Don't you agree? This vote wasn't a vote for Americans. This vote was for men. And unless we want to become the Handmaid's Tale, then us women need to protest because this is some buttery bullshit. I'm sorry to the women and minorities who aren't going to get the help that they need in the next 4 years. I'm sorry for the people who are impoverished who are just going to keep dying from starvation and lack of healthcare and lack of governmental support. People are actually praising this guy and it's a freaking joke. Look at the states he won. You won't catch me there. You'll catch me in New York City. And I'm sorry to all the women who are going to suffer in these bumpkin-ass, small-ass little towns because of this. Reason why I'm a New Yorker and always will be. Fuck Florida.
I'm so glad you guys got your cheap-ass groceries and your cheap-ass fucking gas because you're fucking broke as shit. You're fucking broke. You're fucking broke. Broke. I said I'm fucking being serious. You're fucking broke.
Well, there you are, a selection of individuals expressing their views as they are entitled to do, and invariably doing so through the auspices of TikTok. What are we witnessing? People who feel very strongly about an issue, people who perhaps feel impotent because their preferred candidate lost, people who are incapable of accepting a democratic outcome, perhaps. What we've witnessed there from that selection are a number of behaviours which provide us with useful insight. First of all, it's rather haughty and presumptive to assume that men voted for Trump because they did so to take women's rights away. If you ask those men why they voted, did you bother to inquire as to the basis on which they cast their vote? It could just be that the men voted on other issues, such as the economy, immigration, the cost of living, inflation, job creation, defence, the environment, a whole host of other reasons, and they didn't sit there and think, do you know what? I'm going to vote for Donald Trump because I want to take women's rights away. I can well imagine that there would be very few men indeed who had such a thought. Instead, they would be focused on, like most people are when they vote, what matters to them. And it isn't to say that they want to take women's rights away, but rather that perhaps doesn't form a particularly important aspect in their life because they've got other priorities. You can make your own minds up as to the moral landscape with regard to such an individual, but just to assume that someone has deliberately voted to take women's rights away is a rather haughty and presumptive stance. It's also haughty and presumptive to lay the blame on men. I'm fairly certain that women voted for Trump as well. Why are there not individuals decrying women taking this step? Why the hatred solely reserved for men? It's also very entitled of these individuals to basically assume that it was a single issue election, all about women's rights. It wasn't. It was an election that covered a variety of topics, as elections do. These responses are self-absorbed. It's all about my rights, not thinking about what the country needs or that other people may have differing needs to them. It's all taken as a slight against them. They're also rather close-minded. One can understand that individuals may well feel upset about a particular stance on an issue such as abortion, but the fact is, this is democracy. Some people will be delighted with the outcome, some people will be dismayed by it. That's the nature of how democracy works. And if more people vote for someone than the one that you supported, then you've got to live with the outcome. If not, well, you can leave and try your luck elsewhere and move to another country that might be chime more with what you would prefer, or that you might do something constructive rather than shouting and screaming into your phone, that you might seek perhaps to influence and lobby the decision makers to think again. These responses are arrogant. First of all, it's assuming that people necessarily want to have sex with them. It could well be that people would say, no, thank you, I don't find you attractive, largely because of your attitude. And furthermore, there is the arrogance of assuming that the world has to know about their views. They're dismissive. Notice that with some of them, they were dismissive towards other people, throwing insults at them and discounting them. You're believing that their view is far more important than the views of other people, failing to recognize that other people have views as well. The reactions of these individuals and others beside is petulant and is also narcissistic. In essence, it's this: you're not doing what I want, so I'm going to throw my rattle out of the pram. I'm going to take my ball home with me. I'm basically shutting up shop and not having sex. So for the next 4 years, no sex, because that's how I'm going to punish you men. And also, because I'm so important, I am going to go on social media and tell everybody about what I'm doing. Who is doing this? Well, the most likely culprits, it won't surprise you, will be narcissists and narcissistic individuals. Why so? Well, because of their strong narcissistic traits, being self-absorbed, being vain, being argumentative, being angry, the outcome not going their way has prompted this reaction whereby they feel moved to decide that they're going on a sex strike and that they want to record this fact and distribute it on social media. To do so is a narcissistic act. As I mentioned in yesterday's videos, of itself it doesn't mean that somebody is a narcissist. You have to look at a wider range of behaviours. But the people that are more likely to engage in this behaviour are either narcissists or narcissistic people because of the strength of their narcissistic traits. Narcissists would do this because the loss of the election threatens their need for control. They're not in a position to assert control directly over Donald Trump, and therefore their narcissism causes them to latch onto an issue, for instance, women's rights, and then causes them to go to social media shouting, ranting, crying, insulting, in order to assert control indirectly with the expectation that people will provide them with support in response, which will give them that subconscious need for control. It also, of course, provides them with fuel. Thus, narcissists, having that need for control, having their need for control threatened by the outcome of the election, and then having a subconscious need to do something about it, are more likely to react in this fashion. Narcissistic individuals will do so because they're low on emotional empathy. They'll be high on the showcasing. They're self-absorbed. And whilst they won't be doing it for the pursuit of the prime aims like the narcissist, given their makeup vis-a-vis low emotional empathy and high narcissistic traits, they're also more likely to do this. You could, of course, also get normal individuals behaving this way and possibly empathic people as a consequence of the fact that they feel so strongly about this issue. In essence, it causes them to take leave of their senses. Their emotional empathy and boundary recognition is reduced, causing them to act out. But as I mentioned, you're more likely to witness it coming from narcissists and narcissistic individuals. There is, again, as I mentioned yesterday, the cultural impact as well. You'll notice that these individuals are all young, and it is the case that as a consequence of them having grown up with this entitled approach to always talk about how they feel and what they believe, but also to do so through social media, this has created a greater narcissistic backdrop, which of course makes it far easier for narcissists to go about our business. Once again, the response of certain individuals to the Trump victory provides me with an opportunity to explain to you why these people behave the way that they do, and for you to see these narcissistic responses and to understand why they're happening and the type of people that they're coming from. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for watching.